The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest from my home state of Texas, Robbie Johnson with Texas Lifestyles Group, Keller Williams in wonderful Abilene, Texas. How are you, Robbie?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Thank you for being on today. And I'm not gonna let you off the hook. I'm gonna ask you the same question I ask everybody else. And that is, were you the young child of 5, 6 years old asking your parents how to become a realtor? Or were you like the rest of us where we kind of fell back into it later on in life?
More fell back into it later on in life. It wasn't that young. However, in Louisiana, where I grew up, we took home ec at that time. It was kind of required. So we had a test that we could take to win a college scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tested kind of a little bit higher of getting to take this test, and it was on real estate. And I actually placed. I got a $2,000 scholarship for it.
Nice.
But I went into interior merchandising and fashion merchandising in college. But anyway, so that was kind of my first little bit into, I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't know anything about real estate, but I did it and got the scholarship.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What part of Louisiana are you from?
I was born in Baton Rouge, but I went to high school in Abbeville and college in Lafayette. Go Raging Cajuns.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the impetus of how you started. Now, did you find a mentor or someone that came along in your life and said, hey, you know what, Robbie, I think you'd be great in real estate. Come join my office and make $1 million tomorrow? Or did you take it upon yourself to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get out of, merchandising and I'm going to go into buying and selling homes. How did that look?
I went the merchandising route right out of college, and I owned a tuxedo company.
Oh.
And we had locations in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alabama. So we were, a few locations. And, trouble starts at home in the marriage, and we owned the business together. So I knew that I had to find something that would allow me to still be a mom during the day, because I had that flexibility in my job. And so a friend of mine in Baton Rouge was selling real estate, and I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I went to real estate school during the first time I filed for divorce. And so we all have those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to real estate school and became a realtor in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know how you got started. So let's talk about today. You are no longer in Baton Rouge. You are no longer in the great state of Louisiana.
Nope.
But you are in Abilene, Texas.
I am.
So tell me about your team. I did a little due diligence on your team. I saw you have a large team there.
I do.
Seem to be doing very well. Tell me about your team and how you built that. Maybe even to the point of how you vetted that team, and then how is your team so successful? And I know that's like 3 questions, so take your time and
that's okay.
Answer them all.
Okay, so I left Baton Rouge, and in Baton Rouge it was so easy because being in the tuxedo business, everyone knew my name, and so it was kind of instant success there. A year into being a realtor there, my now ex-husband and I decided to move to Destin, Florida. So I was a realtor in Destin, Florida, a total of probably about 18 years. I still have my broker's license there.
Destin's a gold mine for
I did very well there and loved it. I had a brokerage there. It merged with a franchise.
Okay.
And so when I finally divorced, I met the now love of my life in Abilene, Texas, and it became, okay, where are we going to live, in Florida or Texas? And I thought, well, I've started over before when I moved to Destin. I can do this. You kind of go back to the basics. And so I moved to Abilene, Texas, and started over again. So third time now. And so that was 2013. 2014 is when I really kind of officially got to Texas, and I knew no one, just like when I went to Destin. So
Yeah.
it was literally starting over again. And the team really got started in about 2017. And there were originally, I think there were 8 of us total. There's still 6 of us all still together.
Oh, wow.
The original. So retention has been a real big thing on my team. And
Yeah. Kind of rare in real estate
it
overall,
is.
right?
Yeah, it is. And in a lot of the, the coaching platforms, they talk about the revolving door that, you're just constantly recruiting. And that is just not the route that I took. I wanted to build a team that they could have leverage in and that they would not want to leave. And of course, everybody gets wings and they fly and they leave. And,
Right.
I still love them for that. It doesn't matter whether you're on my team or not. I'm still here to help you and love you, so to say.
Sure.
But there's 6 original who are still with me. And so we started the team, Texas Lifestyles Group, and they were just very instrumental in helping us get our systems that we have today. So we, our first year, we called it the year of systems. And then we went into the year of client events. So every year we would kind of focus on something.
Right.
And in 2019 is really when the growth kind of took off, right before COVID, is when the growth really kind of took off and people were like, we want to join your team. We want to join your team. And so today, the original 5, who I count myself as 6, but I'm
Right.
not as in production anymore. But that original 5, we added about 5 more full time. So there's been 10 agents since 2019 that I've really grown the business with. Today, we're at about 20 agents total. We've had some more full time come on in the last 6 months. We kind of opened up again in the last 6 months of growth again. For a
Right.
while, I just kind of kept it small, so to say. I don't know if you call 10 to 15 small, but I kept it manageable. So, if my whole part is I want to coach you and I want to coach you to success, I didn't feel that going from, 6 to 50 is coaching people to success.
Right.
So our track record is kind of what made people want to come onto our team. So those original 10, so to say, we've gone from 44 million in sales to 98 million in sales since 2019.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's kind of been the growth pattern.
Yeah. You remind me of another agent I know very well out of Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
and not because of the accent, but and not because of one of her offices is in Destin.
Oh,
Yeah, but you do, and I'll tell you the story after the fact.
Okay.
After the show, we'll compare some notes and maybe who she
okay.
is. But yeah, that's fantastic. Now I will ask you because I want to talk about the future and get out the vision board a little bit with you. But so is the plan for growth for you? I think you said you were at 98. I think you went from 44 to 98. Was that the number I'm quoting correctly? So is the goal to grow that number by osmosis and growing your team, or how does the growth process look moving forward from here? And I guess we'll go ahead and go to that third set about
Sure.
growth, the future. How does that look?
So my team since day one has been set up more like a brokerage. So we're kind of like a brokerage in a brokerage, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I didn't really go the traditional team route of the 50-50 splits and, buying a whole bunch of leads and different things like that. So, and I always laugh with my team, and I grew up at a funeral home. That was where I lived growing up. So
Okay.
I know it's kind of weird, but tomorrow's not promised. So I've
Sure.
always lived with that tomorrow's not promised. And as I tell my team, I want y'all to go to my funeral and say we loved her and she helped us.
Right.
But if something were to happen to me, how can you still go on with your business if you are 100% dependent on me? So I've never wanted to develop that they are totally dependent on me. What I wanted them to be is dependent on the leverage that the team can give them to go out
Right.
and keep building their business, and me as their coach.
Gotcha.
So a couple of years ago, strictly to I'm coaching. And that became the year of coaching is when we went to 95 million in sales. So we went from, I think, 77 million to 95 million, again, with that same core group of people. So if we make over 98 million in sales, which are hopefully it'll continue, but through first quarter, we're up in sales from last year. But that's because they're reaching their individual goals. The goals aren't about me. They're
Right.
not about Robbie Johnson wants to do 120 million.
Right.
If our group does it, we do it. So I kind of take our goals towards the year and in the year, and it's, what are all of their individual goals? What is this going to look like? Because there's been some years where, I have an agent who maybe closed 10 million, but the next year they're comfortable closing 7 to 8.
Right.
So, so I've had to kind of gear it towards that, but the team is we're very much set up like a brokerage. I have profit sharing on my team. Our culture is one of the things that really attracts people to our team. I believe it helps with their growth. I have awards I take them on a trip every year. We just got back from a cruise. We went to Mexico on a cruise. There's lots of growth in that area. And then for me personally, for growing, I'm now part of I now have my Mississippi broker's license as well. So I'm actually a broker in 3 states. And
wow, you are the Gulf Coast master for sure.
We sell the South. That's what I call. But so I'm part of a brokerage as well right now in Gulfport and Biloxi, Mississippi. So I coach those agents too. We officially really got started with that firm probably about 7 months ago, and we're already at 8 agents there. So I'm enjoying getting to coach them and help them with marketing and things like that too.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll give you the opportunity to talk about the greatness, if you'd like, of the state of Texas or Abilene in itself. Tell me why people move to Abilene, one. Act like I've never been there and I know nothing. 2, why do they stay? Why do they set roots and stay in Abilene? I think that's more important for most of us. Why is it such a good community to live in?
So when I very first moved to Abilene, I had someone say, you should go through a program called Leadership Abilene. It's through our Chamber of Commerce. And probably about 90 people apply every year, and they usually choose about 30. There's some, like the hospitals, our Air Force Base, that are set where they have somebody that's always going to feed into this program every year. So I applied and I thought, why in the world would they choose me? I'm not from here at all, but I got chosen for the program. Nice. So that was a real foot in the door of really learning about Abilene, because I feel like, we're all ambassadors for our area.
Sure.
So I think my biggest takeaway from that and what I've lived in living in Abilene is that people come here because, well, there's great schools here, but it's kind of it's a slow and it's a healthy lifestyle here. The people are very friendly. They're very inviting. They want new people to come in. We have a thriving Air Force Base here. We're home to the B-1 bomber and the C-130. And the B-21 is going to be stationed here, the new bomber that's coming. So our growth of the city we're exploding, absolutely exploding. And so, through the downturn, September and October, November, as interest rates went up, we've been fortunate because people are still moving into our area. The area is still growing. Now, did we have a stabilization? Of course we did. But we've not quite seen probably the dips that maybe some of the other parts of the country are experiencing.
Sure. Yeah, Texas overall has done well in that area, as of course Florida has also. So why do people stay in Abilene, I guess? So, tell me some of the greatness about Abilene and what kind of communities you have there.
So what I learned in Leadership Abilene was that, because, I didn't raise my children here. I came here later as an adult. And actually, my identical twins came with me as well.
Oh, wow.
One is on my team. He's highly successful. We have 3 universities here. The other one has his master's degree from one of the universities and works at one of the other universities. So that's been a draw. People coming here is the university systems that are here. They're private, but it's been a huge draw for people. It was interesting because what we kind of talked a lot about in Leadership Abilene is that people were leaving Abilene whenever they graduate from high school because when I go back to saying it's a healthy place to live, that means boring.
Yeah,
And so,
right.
People were wanting to leave because it was boring.
Right.
So they leave, they go to the Metroplex, which is what we call Dallas Fort Worth.
DFW, yeah.
So DFW, they would go to the Metroplex or Houston or wherever it is, out of state, wherever they went to college and moved to. And what they found 10 years later is they started to come back because they realized that what they considered boring was not boring at all. It's a great lifestyle here, and it was a great place to raise children, and looking at how they were raised. And so you see where, because our universities, I would think, are probably private universities. People may go to University of Texas or Texas Tech or A&M or Baylor or wherever they're going to go to, out of state, whatever it is.
Right.
But then they come back.
Right.
So we find a lot of the coming back is sometimes about that 30-year-old mark. And then some are just staying, of course. Sure. But, the lifestyle here, we have lakes around here. There's a lot of hunting and fishing and different things like that. And of course, we're only 2.5 hours from the Metroplex. So it's easy to run into Dallas for the weekend and spend the weekend and things like that.
And then run out.
And then leave. Yes.
I lived in
We have
DFW.
no traffic in our town at all. And
You actually just go
love
through.
no
I've
traffic.
probably been through Abilene 20 times in my life. I lived in DFW from 88 to 2009. So, and I was born in Houston. So Abilene. Oh, I know. Yeah. Abilene's been a big part of my travel life, and just Abilene Christian, a ton of people I've worked with in my life went to Abilene Christian. And so, yeah.
Which is where my son works.
I was going to say it. I was going to guess, but you're like, private. I go, I know.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hardin Simmons is where he graduated from college. He did his undergrad and got his master's, and now he's at ACU. And he loves both. Yeah. But he loves working for ACU.
Yeah, ACU is a fantastic school. Most of the friends I came up with in business couldn't say enough. Couldn't say enough. Fantastic. So how would someone get in touch with you, Robbie?
Email's easy, robbiejohnson@kw.com, or any of our platforms are at We Sell the South. So we have a pretty, well, I call it a decent TikTok following. We've got about 15,000 followers on TikTok.
Great. Yeah.
So we do well on that, and then Instagram, and of course Facebook. We're very interactive on all of those things. So
you guys out there dancing in the streets, or what are you putting on TikTok? I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna go on there today.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
I'm gonna check you guys out.
I tell a lot of real estate stories on there. Of course, we do our houses and things like that. But I find my biggest views come from the real estate stories. I've done this for 20 years, so I have some stories to tell. And then, I've sold a house off of TikTok. I had a vintage home, if you want to call it, about 5,000 square feet, and someone from California saw it and bought it. So
that's awesome.
It helps to be on those platforms for sure for your sellers.
It does, especially for those out of towners, which you're having a wonderful windfall from the West, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, we are. Alaska, Washington, California. I mean, that's been a big draw.
Gotta have some Oregon there. I gotta believe there's some people from Oregon.
Oh, any of that. Absolutely.
Any of the West Coast, Washington, Oregon.
Yeah, any of the West Coast.
I'm surprised on the Alaska, though.
Alaska, we've had Alaska. I've got Alaska on my team. 2 people on my team from Alaska located.
Now, I would say this is Tim, 50-something-year-old Tim, who knows Texas really well. I'd say, okay, I get it. Alaska, near the Permian Basin for Abilene. That makes sense, right? So now putting that together, it makes sense. Yeah. So that's only people like you and I understand that.
Yeah, they understand. And talking about the Permian Basin, and if we're wrapping up, I'm so sorry, but
no, that's okay.
We're right on that outskirt of the Permian Basin, and so that's kind of been a draw even with Midland and Odessa people. Is they'll come here and buy ranches. I went from selling beaches to ranches, and I had to learn how to do both because I was a condo specialist in Destin. I sold condos and beach houses, and I'm like, okay. I went from the bayous of Louisiana to the beaches of Destin to the big country of West Texas. I can do this. I can sell
for sure. All you need next is to maybe go up to the Rockies and live in Breckenridge for a little while.
Oh, wouldn't that be fabulous? My husband would never be in the cold.
Yeah, I'll tell. Well, you know what? Then you just call me, and I'll go up there and run that office.
Oh,
And
that sounds fabulous.
I mean, I taught. I always have people from that area, and I'm like grumpy about it. It's beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm in one of those condos, and I'm on the water, and yay me.
Mhm.
But I'm like, my wife and I just talked about it, and I was like, hey, how about a trip up to Breckenridge for a week? And let's do this and let's do that. And we're like, yeah, let's do it.
Mhm.
And then we go out, we go down to the beach and hit the deli, and it's gone. It's out of our mind. Our kids are grown too, and it's like it's
Mhm.
not always like right in front of. And we're not even skiers, but it's so beautiful there.
It is beautiful.
That
But
would
I
be your
love
next
being in the
conquer.
South.
Yeah, the South is awesome, and I'm glad to hear it. Okay, last question.
Okay.
Like I said at the top of the show, I'm gonna here at the bottom. I can't let you off the hook, so I'm gonna ask it. Give me something. I always say you're the hit, I'm the DJ. You're the hit record, I'm the DJ. I just spin the records if anybody knows what records still are. Take us out this last minute or two with something positive. Something you feel people need to hear. It could be about real estate. It could be about your family. It could be about your dog. Just take us out, getting close to the weekend, something we could take with us and feel good about.
When my husband walked out the door in 2010, I started calculating in my mind because he ran all of our finances, and I calculated in my mind how much money I maybe had in my checking account.
Yeah.
So there was my first lesson is now I'm the master of my books. But when he walked out the door, he handed me my business checkbook and he said, don't write any checks. You have $100 to your name. And so I started my life over with $100. And I called my mother in a panic, and she said, I'm not going to help you file for divorce this time. You've got to do it on your own, Robbie, because you've not gone through with it any time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have $100 to my name. And she said, Robbie, go sell real estate. It's what you do best. And, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me was being at that point, because now what I do for people is how can you make it in this business on a budget?
Right.
Because we all have to be on a budget. And if I can start over in 2 cities, now 3 with Mississippi, if I can start over in 2 cities and at one point in my life have $100 and 3 children to my name, anybody can make it in this business if you just follow the easy models that are out there. It's not a get rich quick, but I promise you can make it in this business and find a mentor or a coach who has that back experience. I've been through several shifts, of course. I mean, you have to think about when he walked out the door, I was in the middle of 2010, which was our sales in 2010, as you know, and the BP oil spill hit the next month.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's nothing good going on.
No, but you can make it.
Yeah.
You can make it in this business. And it just takes time, and it takes building relationships. And that is when people say, Robbie, what's the magic pill? Relationships.
There you go.
100% the magic pill is go out and meet people and build relationships. And then it all goes from there.
I love it. That's great. That's great advice. Robbie, thank you so much for being on the program today. Texas Lifestyles Group, Keller Williams, Abilene, Texas, Gulf Coast and all. We loved it. Had a great time. I look forward to catching up with you again next 3, 6, 9 months. You and I have a lot in common, and a lot we could discuss. So
I would love that.
I do look forward to that. Have a great rest of the week and a weekend, and enjoy the great state of Texas.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was an honor to get to be on your show. Thank you. Or your podcast. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thank you.